Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're diving deep into a topic that's still sparking a lot of debate. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. What exactly is it? How did it all start? Is it still relevant today, or is it on its last legs? To get a clear picture, we're going to chat about several key points. The origins, how and why NATO was created right after World War II in the midst of the Cold War. Its key role in the Cold War, how it stood up to the Soviet Union and what it meant for global security back then. The transformation, what happened to NATO when the Berlin Wall fell and the world changed radically. We'll look at how it adapted to new challenges. Current challenges, we'll talk about the problems and tensions it faces today, with new powers on the map, internal differences, and the rise of hybrid warfare. Is the end near? We'll dive into that spicy debate about whether NATO's days are numbered or if, like a chameleon, it will adapt once again. So, let's get started. To begin, let's picture the world just after World War II. Europe was in ruins, and two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, were starting to eye each other with suspicion. In that tense atmosphere, NATO was born in 1949. The main idea was simple but powerful: if someone attacks one of the member countries, it's like attacking all of them. This is known as collective defense, and it's laid out in the famous Article 5 of the treaty. Basically, it's a military level, all for one and one for all. At first, it included Western European and North American countries, creating a security bridge across the Atlantic. During the Cold War, NATO was like a massive wall holding back the spread of communism and Soviet influence in Europe. It wasn't just a signed document. They set up military bases, conducted joint exercises, and coordinated their armies so that if anything happened, they could respond quickly and forcefully. It was a key piece in the global chess game of opposing blocs. But of course, history doesn't stand still. In the late 80s and early 90s, boom! The Berlin Wall falls, the Soviet Union dissolves, and NATO's big enemy vanishes from the map. So now what? Well, NATO had to reinvent itself. It was no longer just about defending against a massive military attack. It started getting involved in other kinds of missions, managing international crises, fighting terrorism, especially after September 11th, and worrying about dangerous weapons falling into the wrong hands. NATO also began to expand. Many countries that had once been under Soviet influence in Central and Eastern Europe joined the alliance. This was seen as a way to secure democracy in that part of the continent, but as expected, Russia wasn't thrilled, and new tensions arose. And NATO didn't just sit back and defend its own territory. We saw it intervene in the Balkans, in the former Yugoslavia during the 1990s, showing it could operate beyond its original borders. And after the September 11th attacks in 2001, NATO fully committed to the war in Afghanistan, proving its reach had become global. And now we arrive at the present day. What is NATO up to now? Well, it's facing a bunch of new and complicated challenges. The world is no longer just about the US and Russia. Other major players like China have entered the scene. Russia has reasserted itself. In this multipolar world, the old idea of defending against a single big enemy doesn't fit quite as well. Plus, there are tensions within NATO itself. Not all member countries see threats the same way. Some are still very focused on Russia, while others are more concerned about terrorism or cyber attacks. And then there's the money issue. Not all countries invest equally in defense, which creates friction and doubts about how committed everyone really is. Some even talk about alliance fatigue, as if NATO members are just tired of rowing in the same direction. And let's not forget about technology. War isn't just about tanks and planes anymore. Now we have cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and hybrid warfare, which means conflict that blends military force with things like cyber attacks, information manipulation, or economic pressure. The goal is to influence enemy decision-making, and adapting to all this, and doing it fast, is a huge challenge for such a big, sometimes slow-moving organization like NATO. All of this has led some to ask, are we witnessing the beginning of the end for NATO? Some believe so. They argue that with the new global power balance, the tensions with Russia, and NATO's own internal divisions, the alliance is wearing thin and might not hold out much longer. And it's a big, but not everyone agrees. Others point out that NATO has proven to be incredibly resilient throughout its history. It's faced plenty of crises and has always found a way to adapt and move forward. So maybe instead of talking about an ending, we should be talking about a new transformation. It may need some deep changes in how it operates to face today's very different challenges compared to those from 70 years ago. It could even evolve into something more than just a military alliance, integrating more technological and economic cooperation. So, what can we conclude from all of this? Well, saying that NATO is on the verge of disappearing is, at the very least, controversial and maybe a bit exaggerated. Yes, things are tough. There are internal tensions, external pressures, and the world is much more complex than it used to be. But if NATO's history has taught us anything, it's that it has an incredible ability to reinvent itself. It's like that veteran boxer who, even after taking hits, knows how to adapt and stay in the ring. What's clear is that NATO is at a crossroads. It must modernize to deal with constantly evolving threats, from cyberattacks to climate-related crises affecting security in an increasingly fragmented world. So maybe instead of preparing for its funeral, we should be watching closely to see what its next version looks like. The discussion about its imminent end is really an invitation to think about how such an important organization must rethink its strategies and way of operating if it doesn't want to fall behind in the 21st century. It doesn't necessarily mean NATO will disappear, but change is inevitable if it wants to stay relevant. The question isn't so much if it will survive, but how and what it will become.